Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're unboxing the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1. This is a premium PC from Dell, and if you follow me, you've seen many XPS reviews, and the product has changed over the last, well, almost exactly a year because the redesign came at CES. Well, kind of. Where are we at with Dell XPS? We have a very consistent design language between the 13, the 15, and the brand new 17. Then, of course, we have the 13 2-in-1. That's what this is. So, last year, the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1 was the very first PC to use Intel's 10th generation Ice Lake processors, which is their very first 10 nanometer processor. It was very cool. Dell switched to a 16 by 10 display. That year, they were also moving the webcams to above the display, because remember that was an issue for a while, where Dell XPS, because the bezel is just so thin that they put the webcam on the bottom. Now, one of the problems with that is that obviously the webcam, HP used to call it the nostril cam, and then they added an IR camera that was still below the display, and then when they moved the webcam to above the display, they had to shrink down the webcam so much to fit in the bezel that they had to get rid of the IR camera. Okay, so that was one thing that was gone. It's like they brought the IR camera in one year and they got rid of it the next year. Anyway, they switched to 16 by 10 last year. That's the big thing. But the big redesign came in January with the XPS 13, because that's when they slimmed down the bezels on all sides, okay? It's pretty awesome. It's 16 by 10 across the lineup now, right? So that's on the 13, the 15, the 17, and the 13 2-in-1. But the big change, that redesign for the 13 2-in-1, like they got like half the redesign last year switching to 16 by 10. This year, now it's the full redesign, matching the XPS 13, right? So now it's got the IR camera in the top bezel along with the webcam. It's got a narrower bottom bezel, and it just matches the rest of the lineup. So this actually is a redesign, because they announced the XPS 13 and the 13 2-in-1 at the same time. But this is the only one that actually looks different, because the XPS 13 was... the clamshell was just a spec bump because it had the same design that it got last year at CES. Okay, or I should say this year at CES. There's still like a week left of the year, so whatever, you get the point. It's CES 2020. Anyway, let's see what we got in this box. I know what to expect because I did review that brand new XPS 13 clamshell already. But we can take a look. Here's the box that comes inside the box. We've got a pen. No, this pen is sealed. All right. So, but by the way, sorry if I got a little drawn out with that story of the XPS redesign. It's really not that complicated of a story, because the 2-in-1 got, half the redesign last year, and now it's getting the whole thing. That's the deal. Here's the pen. It does use a battery, which Dell should really get over. It's one of those things where, like, we should be on a rechargeable pens by now. Most companies are, but by the way, some companies were shipping rechargeable pens as a premium. You can pay extra for it. Most are coming standard now, so that's something I wish. It's one of those things like, this is a quadruple A battery. Quadruple A batteries are not sold at your local drugstore. Probably it is at Best Buy. You get it easily off Amazon or whatever, but they're not so common. And if you don't use the pen a lot, they're a pain when they die. If you use the pen maybe just every couple of months and you got to sign something, or you're just in a position where you want to use it, and then the pen is dead, like, that is a terrible user experience. It's redeemed somewhat if you could just pop it on a USB charger for 30 seconds and get enough use out of it that you need. It's not like that experience is not redeemed at all if you have to go to the store and buy batteries just to use your device the way that you want to. So, yeah, I mean, I don't, not a fan of the battery powered pen. All right, let's get to the PC itself. Let's take this plastic off. And here we have it, the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1. And you know it's a 2-in-1 because you can go like that, and you can just, and it turns on. But yeah, so there are a couple differences between this and the clamshell, other than the, what I just did. But to take a look at the inside the box, we have this is a 45-watt charger instead of a 65-watt charger, so that's cool. Got a power cable, and we've also got a USB Type-C to Type-A adapter, which actually comes in handy. But it's one thing about this redesign, although the XPS 13 2-in-1 didn't have one last year, but one thing about this year's XPS redesign is that no XPS laptops have USB Type-A. None. Even the 17. So obviously it wouldn't be on here either. So we have a Type-C port over here. We have a Type-C port over here, which is very nice. And those are both Thunderbolt 4 ports. See, what makes it really nice to have them on both sides is that you can charge them on. You can charge the device on whichever side is convenient, and so many companies don't do that. In fact, Lenovo puts. Am I doing this right? I don't know. Lenovo puts both charging ports on the left side. HP puts both on the right side, and it's very frustrating. Like, especially on the right side for me, because I'm right-handed and I might be using a mouse, and just the cables kind of get in the way. Or if you're using something and the power adapter is on this side and both charging ports are on this side, it's annoying, So it's cool to see them on both sides. That's actually a Google spec that I first started seeing laptops do that on Chromebooks, and I don't know I don't know if that's where they got the inspiration for this, but it is what it is, and I'll take it. It's good. Thunderbolt 4, you can connect up to 2 4K displays, 40 gigabit per second data transfer speeds. I know what you're thinking. That sounds a lot like Thunderbolt 3. Yes, it does. And that's because Thunderbolt 3 could do precisely that. But the key word being that it could do that, not that it necessarily would. Because Thunderbolt 3 had a minimum spec of 20 gigabits per second and support for 1 4K display. So, the big problem there is that there was no easy way to know what you were getting when you bought your laptop. It just said Thunderbolt 3. You didn't know if it used 2 lanes or 4 lanes. So you might go and say, all right, great, this thing has Thunderbolt 3. I can go and connect my 2 4K displays. And then suddenly you connect them, and one of them will only show up as full HD, and that's a pain point. And by the way, you're spending a lot of money on this. You want this to work. So I like Thunderbolt 4 because it's the minimum spec now. And so what you're really getting out of Thunderbolt 4 is you know what you're getting. You know that a Thunderbolt 4 port is going to be able to do what's promised. There's no minimum spec that does less. And that's really important because, by the way, Dell's XPS products did use the minimum spec for Thunderbolt 3. That was in my Dell XPS 15 review and my XPS 17 review. And so now that's going to be fixed. And so, if you want Thunderbolt 4 on an XPS 15 or 17, you will have to wait for the next generation, which can't be that far off. But so let's have a look. Let's start with the keyboard because this is called maglev, and this is 2nd generation maglev. And the thing about maglev is that you'll see that the keys are very shallow, and I like it. This is maglev Gen 2, and the first one was actually on the Dell XPS 15 2-in-1. And the 15 2-in-1, there was only one generation of that product, and that used KB Lake G. And KB Lake G was never refreshed. The Dell XPS 15 2-in-1 was never refreshed, but I digress. When they introduced maglev, on the XPS 13 2-in-1, it was Gen 2, and it was much better. I hated it on the XPS 15 2-in-1. I actually think this is a very comfortable typing experience. I've used it on the last one. So, I mean, it depends what you want. Because remember, like, if this was superior in every single way, they probably would have put this on the XPS 13 as well. It's a way to make the device thinner. It's using magnets to levitate the keys, like as the name suggests. Okay. By the way, the color is black on the palm rest. The carbon fiber weave, that's traditional Dell XPS right there, and that's something that they haven't set in a while, so that's cool. Most of the XPSs that I've reviewed, well, not the larger ones, I guess, but the XPS 13s, they have the white glass fiber weave palm rest, and so it's not nice to do a little classic XPS look a little bit. So you got that new. Well, the keyboard's not actually new, but you have the maglev keyboard. You've got the Thunderbolt 4 ports, micro SD on this side as well. By the way, that's another thing that's been redesigned about this new redesign, is that you don't have that battery indicator that used to be on the side. Also, the black palm rest used to come with a black side. So you know, the whole thing's been redesigned. That's the point. 16:10 display that we can see up here. And it looks nice. If we look, let's see what the resolution of this display is. I'm going to put my money on full HD. But yes, it's full HD plus, which is fine. That means better battery life. It does come with 4K. That's something, I mean, that's a matter of preference. I prefer 4K, but it will chew up your battery life. So, I mean, at this size, I don't think you're sacrificing much by getting full HD. But, it's all what you're into. Just be aware that you're using battery life if you do it. Beautiful display, and of course, like I said, we've got the webcam on the top with the IR camera up there, and the bottom bezel's been shrunken down as well. So we have a very large screen, or I should say, a very high screen to body ratio here, and that's the XPS 13 2-in-1, and it's. Oops. It's not all that different. Well, it's not different at all from the XPS 13, other than the maglev keyboard, the 360-degree hinge. Should be a little heavier as well, and it's just those little bits and pieces. The Dell XPS 13 2-in-1 has actually come a long way over the last couple of years, because a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have recommended it in a million years, because it used to use a Y series processor. Intel's Y series processor is designed for fanless PCs. It's very low power, and I don't usually recommend it because the performance is not good. And especially when we have convertibles out there using full U-series processors. So last year they also came back with that U-series processor, and that was a big deal. And then we had Ice Lake with Iris Plus graphics, and with Iris Plus graphics, that meant Iris Plus graphics meant a lot with Ice Lake, because it meant that Ultrabooks can do things that require more power in a slim and light form factor. Now we have Tiger Lake, Iris Xe graphics. It's even better. Intel has been doing a lot of work on integrated graphics, and it makes a real difference in the overall experience. So anyway, guys, that's it. I'm going to review on this in a few weeks. Honestly, there's not a whole lot that's new. There's the design changes. There's the design changes, Tiger Lake, Thunderbolt 4, faster memory. And then, of course, if we're differing from the XPS 13, we have that keyboard and the 360-degree hinge. We have the 16:10 display, IR camera for Windows Hello, fingerprint sensor that's in the power button that I didn't show you actually, but it's there. And that's about it. So stay tuned. I'm Rich from NeoWin. Have a great night.